I, now A and E both are not permitted. So this is how you can generate 5 OS in the order. Now all string of A's and B's that do not contain the substring ABB, that do not contain the substring ABB. So now here you can see that we are using this new operator, that is question mark. So we are using this new operator question mark. This indicates 0 or 1 occurrence of it. Maximum 0 or 1 occurrence of this B is permitted. So now we can have any number of B's from this. We can have any number of A's from this A plus. We can have any number of B's in the beginning. So, but because it is B and question mark, maximum occurrence after A of B is 0 and 1. You cannot have 2 occurrences. So either you can take no occurrence of B or you can take 1 occurrence of B. And then again, because of this star, you can repeat the thing. So you can see that we will match the pattern like this: B, B, then A. If I take 1 occurrence of B, so I will get A, B. Again, because there is a star over here, you can repeat this pattern. And now, because this question mark indicates 0 or 1 occurrence of B, I can ignore that B also. So this is a valid pattern in which there is no substring ABB. In this, there is no substring ABB. Now, this one, do not contain the subsequence ABB. Now here we are focusing on the subsequence. That means if you eliminate some of the characters from the given string, still it should not generate ABB. So that's why we have either B star, only B's are permitted, or we can have B star A plus, we can have B in the beginning and A plus, or this is the third important thing, B star A plus B A star. So you can see that what will happen, that because this one B is there and it is a subsequence, not a substring, so you will get a pattern in which you can have any number of A's in the beginning, you can have any number of B's, no issue, but after A you can have at most 1 B, because this pattern shows that we don't have B after it. If B is there, now here there will not be B star or B here, because we don't want a subsequence ABB. So that means the maximum occurrence of B permitted is 1 after A is achieved. Once you get A, the maximum occurrence of B permitted is 1. Otherwise, it will generate the subsequence ABB. So that's why we have only 1 B here after A. Once you achieve A, you cannot have 2 occurrences of B possible. Otherwise, it will create a problem, because if you eliminate this A star, it becomes ABB. We do not want a subsequence ABB. So after A, only 1 occurrence of B is possible. A can be any time, but only 1 occurrence of B is possible once you encounter A. That's why this pattern is there. So any query in this? Okay, in case of BET example, we have fixed input alphabet. Our input alphabet is A to Z and only A to Z. So there is no need to consider another symbol like space or new line character or tab. When we are considering a regular expression, definitely when you implement a LEX program, it is a different thing. You have to eliminate the spaces from that thing. But if you consider regular expression, your input alphabet is only from A to Z. So space will not come. It will be considered as an invalid character and it will not recognize it. So any query in this regular expression other than this? So this we have done. It is the same thing. Now all the strings of A's and B's with an odd number of A's. Now we want only odd number of A's. So now it is B star. Then you can see here A and A. So A, B star, and whole star. This will generate even number of A. You can see, because we have occurrences of A 2 times. And in between we have B star, at the end we have B star. If your string starts with B, you can use this B star for it. So now it is even number of A inside this parenthesis. A, B star, and whole star. So this will always generate even number of A's. 2, then in multiple of 2. So 4, 6, 8. Now to convert into odd, you have to append this A, B star. Why we are appending B star at the end? Because your pattern may end with B. Your pattern may end with a B. That's why we are appending B star at the end. And in total, it will always generate odd number of A's. Now last, Ari, all the strings of zeros and ones in which any 2 zeros in this string alpha are separated by 3 ones. Any 2 zeros in string alpha are separated by 3 ones. So if you can say any 2 zeros, then they are separated by 3 ones. That means immediately after 0, you will get 3 1. Immediately after 0, you will get 3 1. So when next 0 is generated, because of this star, when next 0 is generated, immediately we have 3 ones after it. So always we have 3 ones between the 2 zeros. And the purpose of this is that after last 0, if you want many ones, you can append with this. If after 0 you have many ones, you can append with this pattern, 0, 1 star. So any query in this regular expressions? Because we have done a lot of thing about regular expressions in finite automata, we will not cover in that much detail here. It is just for purpose of overview. So now, similar to generating a regular expression, we should also know which language is generated by a given regular expression. So here, this begins and ends with A. First symbol must be A, last symbol must be A. So it begins and ends with A. Now here, if I consider this, if I remove this B star, then this sigma or A star will give us A star. This sigma or A, if I ignore this B star, it will give us A star. So this generates all the patterns of A. If I use null, that is sigma or null, then I will get B. So if I combine these two, this is nothing but your sigma star. This generates all the elements of sigma star. So this is nothing but A or B whole star. Now here, if I consider, then this position, this is the last position, this is second last, and this third from the last. So it tells that the third symbol from last must be A. Third symbol from the last, first, second, and third. Third symbol from the last must be A. This indicates exactly 3 occurrences of B. And for this one, here you can see that you generate A. You can generate the patterns like BB, BB, BB from this AA or BB star. If I ignore this whole part, then you can generate this pattern AA 4 times A. Now it is AA and or BB. So you can also generate this kind of pattern AA, BB, BB, AA, and you can repeat this pattern. Also you can generate a pattern like this AA, AA, BB, then AA, BB, BB from this first part. Now if I consider the second part of this, then you can see that we are also able to get a pattern, because this both the parts are compulsory, AB or BA, and here AB or BA. So you have to take one occurrence from here compulsory, you have to take one occurrence from here compulsory. So now in this case, what you will get, AB from this two, if I combine, then AB, BA, then BA, AB, BA, BA. So if you look at this, then always you are getting 2A and 2B, or 4A, 4B, or 2B, or 2A, 4B. So always we are getting even number of A and B in any order. AB pattern is there. So this will give us even number of So this will give us even number of A's and B's. So this is how you can find out the regular language from the given regular expressions. So now we'll extend our thing that from the regular expression, how we'll generate the regular definition. Because you know regular language and regular expressions. But from this we can generate a regular definition. So regular definition is nothing but we are associating a name with the regular expression. We are associating a name with the regular expression. So now you can see that in the Pascal language, to recognize the identifiers, we are first defining a letter. So this letter is nothing but a regular definition. We are associating one name letter with it. So capital A or B or capital C up to capital Z, or small a or small b up to small z. That is defined as letter. Then we have a digit. We are defining as 0 or 1 or 2 up to 9. Any digit we can consider from here. So now to define the identifier or variable name in the Pascal language, we have a rule that it must start with a letter. You cannot use a number as a first symbol for the variable name in the Pascal language. So you are considering a letter, the first word, and after that we can have 0 or more occurrence of either letter or digit. So we can say that this kind of names, A12 is a valid name, A1B is also a valid name, A67Z is also a valid variable name, because it starts with a letter. We must have a letter. Then after that we can have either letter or a digit 0 or more times. We can have letter or digit 0 or more times. So you can see here we have first letter, we have 2 digits after it, a letter, then digit and letter first, then 2 digits and letter. So all these are valid variable names for the identifiers. Also in shorthand notation, if you want to define identifier, then you can write like this, A to Z. So this dash indicates all the symbols, alphabets between A and Z are valid. Again A dash Z, so again small alphabets between A to Z, including and Z, are valid as a first symbol. And after that you can have either a capital alphabet or small letter alphabet or 09, any symbol. So this is also another shorthand way to represent this identifier. So this identifier is a regular definition, we can say, because we are associating a name. This is nothing but one regular expression. This is one regular expression, but we are associating a name ID with it. So it is a regular definition for the identifier in the Pascal language. Okay, now next is, we have a regular definition for unsigned numbers. For unsigned numbers, again we are considering the same language, Pascal, as an example. So first I will define digit 0 or 1 or 2 up to 9. Then from that we can generate any number, digits. So I am giving another definition, digits, digit star. So it indicates that there must be at least one digit. That's why this digit is there. Or also you can write in this way. This also is known to you, that digit and plus, because plus indicates one or more occurrence. So here digit and digit star can be also written as digit plus. Both are same. Okay, then we may have an optional fractional part. So to indicate optional fractional part, we are giving a regular definition, that dot and digits. Now here I am using a digits, dot and digits. So that means after dot we can have one or more digits possible. Now it is optional fractional part. It is not compulsory. This 1240 is also a valid unsigned number. But to define a number like this, 39.45, we have to use this optional fractional part. And you can use dot and digits. You will use dot and digits to generate this dot and 45 from this digits. Now it is optional. So if you don't want to use this part, then you can use a null. Similar to that, we have optional fractional exponent part. We have optional exponent part. So you can see here, we have this digits part, then we have optional fractional part, which is also here it is used, and then we have E. Always we have E after this fraction. This is also a valid number, 12E5. This is also valid. So in this we have a digits part. We are not using the fractional part and we are using directly exponent part. So this is also a valid example. So now we have E. So that's why we have E. Then sometimes we are writing E15 or we are writing E minus 41. We can write like this, 12E plus 5. This is also a valid thing. That's why we have E, which is compulsory to indicate exponent part, then plus or minus or null. If you don't use sign, you will use null. If you use plus sign, you have to use plus. Otherwise, you can use minus for minus 41. Then we have digits, because we can have many digits in it, like here 41, 2 digits. And it is an optional part, so we are putting a null here. So finally, our complete regular definition for unsigned number is, we can define number as digits, optional fraction part, and plus digits, then optional fraction exponent part. So you can see that we are using the shorthand over here, digits, we are using digit plus here. For optional fractional part, we'll write like this, because this question mark, as we know, indicates 0 or 1 occurrence of this. You cannot repeat twice. I cannot write like this 2.5.6. We are telling same that 1 or 0 occurrence of this through this question mark. Similarly, through this question mark, we are telling it is 0 or 1 occurrence of this exponent part. So either you can use this shorthand notation for this unsigned number, or you can use this definition. Both are a valid way to indicate this unsigned number. So now, similar to this, we have regular definitions for other components which we are using in the program, because we are declaring a token for numbers. We are declaring a token for identifier for the variable names. That's why we are discussing this different regular definitions. So now let us focus on this. We know that when we have certain keywords present in the programming language, which is actually required because they are part of the grammar, they indicate the flow of our program. So we have for if, we have corresponding token as if it is then, we have corresponding token as then. If we consider else, we have else corresponding token because it is a fixed keyword. For relational operator, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, here it is double equal to, it is double equal to, we are indicating as a not equal to. It is indicating a not equal to. So when keywords are there, we have a fixed tokens for it. Now for number we have used this. So basically we can say that for this kind of grammar statement, for if condition, if expression then statement, or if expression then statement else statement, we have if keywords then keywords. That's why we have mentioned over here else, then term, relational operator, term. So that's why we have this relational operator. This term is nothing but ID or number. It can be a variable name or any number. So using this grammar, if we have this kind of simple grammar, then these are the tokens generated from this grammar, and that must be identified by the lexical analyzer. So now, as we know that in the lexical analyzer, we are not only focusing on the different tokens, but it has some other task. That means if there is any blank or a new line character or tab, it must be deleted from the program because they are not useful in the other phases of the compiler. So for blank, tab, new line character, we'll represent that as a delimiter. We'll represent them as a delimiter. So blank, tab or new line character, which is present in the program, they are indicating a delimiter. So basically, we are defining a regular expression for this white space using this delimiter as delimiter plus. So one or more occurrence of this delimiter is known as a white space. If you give multiple spaces, so that all are known as a white space. So one occurrence of blank, tab or new line character is known as a white space. And keep in your mind that this will never generate a token because they are not useful in any other phases of the compiler. So all the blanks in your program will be removed. All the new line characters you have used in your program will be removed. Tabs will be removed by the lexical analyzer because they are not required in any phase. So it is a simple thing. You can read one file which is in a C, which is a C file, and you can write a regular expression like this, using your Lex program, and you can remove all the blank space and new line character tab and everything from it. So you can see that kind of program Yes? Are you able to hear me? Which slide you have gone through last? Which was the last slide we have discussed? Because there was a connection loss. Yes, can someone unmute the mic and tell me which was the last slide? Yes, Muktan, can you tell? Which was the last slide we have discussed?
We were discussing about.
So have you gone through transition diagram construction? Yes, transition diagram construction.
No, we have not gone through that.
Okay, so I will continue from that slide. So now let us see that how we can construct this diagram. Let me construct it again so that you can understand. So basically these transition diagrams are nothing but they are.
Sir, we have only gone through white spaces only.
I think we have gone through this slide.
Yes, only, sir.
Okay, so this slide indicates that we have no token for the white space and no attribute for this white space. Also for keywords like if, then, else, we don't have any attribute value in the symbol table, and the token will be the keyword itself, if, then, else. For identifier, the keyword generated will be ID. So ID is the regular expression for any variable name, and it will contain a pointer to the symbol table entry. For number, regular expression for any valid number, the corresponding token we are assuming as number, and exact value will be stored in the symbol table. And these are all relational operators. Less than or equal to. We in C language we are using double equal to indicate a comparison. Not equal to, greater than, and greater than or equal to. For assignment we are using this equal to sign. So now for this regular definitions, what we have to do is we have to construct a transition diagram. So these transition diagrams are nothing but deterministic finite automata. These transition diagrams are nothing but deterministic finite automata, but having a slight modification. So that's why we have learned this finite automata in the theory of computation. So now here you can see, we'll start from here when the first letter will come, because it is compulsory in the identifier. When the first letter will come, we'll consider L because it is compulsory. After that, we can have either any letter or digit. Okay, now this part is a new and very important. That before we announce any kind of statement that it is a valid identifier, we must have to read extra character. Because once you read the extra character, then and then you come to know that it is a valid identifier. Let us take a simple example. Integer, then book, price, and semicolon. So first integer will be declared as a valid keyword, then space will be removed by the lexical analyzer. This is a white space. Now when lex begin will be here, we have a lexim begin over here, forward pointer will be here. So when you get B, it will move over here in the transition diagram. You will reach here at this point. Then again forward pointer will increment. So at last what will happen, that this forward pointer will reach over here. When it encounters this semicolon, which is a different symbol, not in the definition of this transition diagram. This semicolon is not a valid character in this diagram. So when it reads this extra character or the other character, at that time it will come to know that previous character is the end of the lexeme. When it encounters this other character semicolon, it will come to know that previous symbol is actually the end of the lexeme. So it will declare this book price as a valid identifier. And definitely, because forward pointer is pointing to this semicolon, forward pointer is pointing to semicolon, this lexeme begin will be here, and again forward pointer will be here. If you are not using this buffer pair scheme, this lexeme begin and forward pointer scheme, in that case, this star indicates that whatever the extra character we have considered to declare the identifier, that extra character we must have to return back to the input buffer so that it can be considered as a first symbol of the next lexeme. That's why this star is there. You have to read one more character to declare the actual identifier, and whatever extra character we are reading, like this semicolon, that you have to again put back into the input buffer if you are not using a buffer scheme. If you are not using this forward pointer and lex begin concept, if you are reading one by one character, so that it will be considered as a first symbol in the next lexeme. So it will be considered as a first symbol in the next lexeme. So that is why the importance of other, and this is very essential. You have to understand that why we are putting this other arrow, because once you are reading this other, then and then you can tell it is the valid thing. You have to read at least one extra character to declare the valid identifier. Now similar to that, we can construct a transition diagram for this white space. So again, in the similar way, I can construct the diagram. Now here you can see it is delimiter plus. So one delimiter is compulsory. So we'll represent in this way. And again, we have to put the same thing. Other and star. So this star indicates we have to return that additional character, which is not part of this white space. So this is how you can consider the transition diagram for white space. Now, before we construct the transition diagram for the unsigned number, let us go step by step because it is very complex. Otherwise, let us construct the transition diagram for this number first. So now here we have, because it is nothing but digit or digit plus, digit star. So I put here digit, one occurrence is compulsory. Then we have other occurrences. And here let me put other. So this is how you can recognize the digit. One occurrence is compulsory, then two or more occurrences will be ended by this loop, and if any other symbol will come, then it is accepted and you will return back that character. So if it is like this, A equal to 12 semicolon, so this 1 will be recognized here, 2 will be recognized here, and when semicolon will come, it will return that semicolon back and it will declare the 12 as a valid number. So now this is not the complete unsigned number regular definition which we have considered. So now let us further extend this. Now we'll add this part into it. So we'll start with this. We'll first consider this digit. If it is valid, for other I am using O. Now we know that it is having an optional fractional part. So this indicates that if it is there, we have to consider dot as a first. Then again we have one digit which is compulsory. We can have more than one digit also, which is valid. And after that, again I will consider other. So you can see that we have two paths. One is only digit is there, and if some another character will come, so it will go over here. If dot is there, it will assume that there is a fractional number. So it will consider like this 12.45. So 12 will be recognized here. Here point will be considered, and 4 and 5. And again, when you get any extra character after this, whatever it is, because it will not be any white space, it can be any another character. It will accept as a valid thing. So it is indicating we have digits with optional fractional part. Now let us go with the final diagram, which covers all the things. We have optional fractional part as well as optional exponent part. So let us consider the first digit. So here I will accept only digits. Now let us consider dot. We will consider the optional fractional part. This is what we have done. Okay, now you can see after that we have optional exponent part. So now for optional exponent part, I will consider E. Okay, now as we know that after E we can have plus or minus sign, or it can be, so I am putting plus and minus sign. Then we have again a digit. We have other part here, but still you can see that from these digits, if I directly go to optional exponent part, if I don't want to use this fractional part, so there must be a path from here that after generating this, suppose I want to generate this 12E5. So now 1, then 2, now I should generate E. So now for that purpose, I will write like this. So this will give us E. So now 1, then 2 here, then E, 1, 2, E. So we are over here. Now we want 5, because we know that plus and minus are not compulsory. It can be either plus or minus or null. So after E, I will directly put one more arrow over here for this digit. So now 1, then 2, then E, and then 5. Okay, now if I consider arrow in this way, what will happen? It will create a problem. We require minimum 2 digits. So to avoid that thing, what I will do, I will directly put this arrow over here, because we require only 1 digit and still it is valid, and still it is a valid thing. You can check this patterns 1, 2, 4, 0, 1, then 2, 4 and 0 other, it is valid. Now if we check for this 39.45, so 3, then 9.4 and 5, and after that new digit will come, new character, it is accepted. Now 6.33 E15, so 6, then 0.33 E, then we can use this path because there is no plus and minus. 1 and 5, this last loop. I hope this last loop is clear. Let me draw it again, otherwise if there is any error here, it is not clearly visible. So now similar to this last 1.578, so 1, then 0.578 will be here, then E minus, we'll use this sign, 4, and 1, and it is accepted. So this will be the complete transition diagram for this unsigned number. So now let us consider a transition diagram for the relational operator. So in relational operator, we'll have a first a less than or equal to. Let us consider. Okay, now here I am directly putting this double circle. The reason is, in the relational operator, what we have is, we know that always the length will be 2. There is no need to consider the third character. All the relational operators we are considering are having a length 2, less than or equal to. This I will consider as not equal to. So here no need to read one more character because it is a relational operator. So up to 2 characters it is sufficient. So we have a less than or equal to, we have not equal to. If they are equal to operator, then we consider in this way. In some books we are using, you can see only one sign, but that one sign indicates assignment operation, not relational operation. So we are putting 2 signs. Then we have similar to this, a greater than and equal to. Okay, sometimes we don't have greater than or equal to. We can have a sign like only greater than, or we can have a sign like only less than. So in that case, right, so we have to add this extra thing here. If immediately after this greater than, you are getting some another symbol, you are not getting equal to, then it is only a greater than sign. And same thing we have to add over here after less than. If you are not getting any another operator and you are getting something different like a less than 2, so you will get this kind of situation. So a identifier less than, and directly you are getting 2, which is not a part of this relational operator. So in that case you have to put back that symbol. If you are getting 2 symbols, it is fine. So in 2 symbols there is no need to put other because they are always there. You can directly return the corresponding token. But if there is only one symbol like this, then you have to consider in this way. So for only less than and only greater than, you have to put this other. And here for relational operator we are using double equal to as per the C language. In some books you will find only one such thing. So now similar to this, you can construct a transition diagram for this kind of regular expression. These are nothing but, we can say, a deterministic finite automata. We know that this regular expression indicates exactly 3 occurrences of B. We have exactly 3 occurrences of B. If it is there, it is accepted. So you can see over here A star, then B, then A star, then B, again A star, B, and last A star. So it is a valid DFA for this kind of regular expression. Now similar to that, if I consider this diagram for this regular expression, if I consider NFA, we'll get a diagram like this first. A, then we can have A or B star, then again A, So this will tell us that it is an NFA. It has A, it is NFA, A or B star A. So what it tells that it must have first A and last A, and then it will go to acceptance. But we know that you cannot have a non-deterministic transition diagram, because if transition diagram is non-deterministic, your lexical analyzer will not able to manage it. So we have to convert this NFA to DFA. So if I consider the same diagram, here A is the first symbol. If it begins with B, it is invalid, because in DFA we must have outgoing arrow for every symbol. So I have to put in this way. A, if it begins with B, it will go to a dead state. First must be A. Okay, now first A is there. If second A encounters, it is well and good. But if after first A, now you know that if B is there, there is no problem here, because you have not given outgoing arrow for B. So A, B, A double B, A, all are valid. First begins with A, end with A. Now after this A, if B will come, still we have to wait for the last A. Still we have to wait for the last A. So A, B, it will not be accepted. A, B. Here, this A, B will not be accepted. But if I convert into A, B, A, it should be accepted. A, then B and A, it should be accepted. Similar to that, if we have A, double B, A, it should be accepted. So A, we have double B, A, and last A. So if A is there, there is no issue. So we can say this will be the equivalent DFA for the given regular expression. So sometimes you have to get first NFA and then you have to convert that into a DFA using any suitable algorithm of theory of computation. So now I hope you can try for this regular expression we have already discussed. You can try by your own, but we require a DFA, not NFA. Our requirement is it must be DFA. And we know that every NFA can be converted to DFA. So this you can try, and also for this you can find out a corresponding DFA. So definitely we will not go into detail of TAFL because these things are known to you. So from the next session onwards, we'll consider the new things which you have not learned in the theory of computation in TAFL, but still they are required for lexical analysis. So like how to convert regular expression into finite automata, and how you convert a finite automata, which is a new thing, to a regular expression. From the finite automata, we'll generate the regular expression. So that kind of things we'll learn in the next session. So these two things you have to try by your own. I hope things are clear. Any query? Any query in this session so far? So just I am ending this session, and both these slides will be available in the shared folder. Yesterday's lecture and today's lecture, both will be available. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon all. So let's start from where we left in the last class. So we saw some concepts regarding big data and how Hadoop is going to solve our problem. So we are going to start with Hadoop itself. So just to recall, am I audible? My voice is clear to everyone? Okay, fine. So Hadoop is a framework that allows us to store and process large data sets in parallel and distributed fashion. So it has two main core components. The first one is HDFS and the second one is MapReduce. So HDFS is nothing but the storage, which is a distributed file system, and MapReduce is a processing framework, right, which allows you to go for parallel and distributed processing. Now, uh, So we saw that Hadoop follows this master-slave architecture, and so both of these core components, MapReduce and HDFS, both are also following this master-slave architecture only. So let's start with the story which we discussed in the last class. Assume you are a manager working in some MNC, and you have got 4 projects. You are responsible